I introduce you to Evo3POD. It is the Italian company that produces these stations, modular fishing stations. We are going to see how to transform a spike into a tripod and how to apply and implement this station with all the various components, transforming it into your ideal fishing station. Evo3POD derives from the spike that I have here in my hands, the classic angled shore fishing spike. This simple spike has already some peculiarities that I will show you right now. It is already equipped with an accessory called jolly. It consists of a bottom and an upper rod support fork, original Evo3POD concept, already prepared to receive 3 components. One frontal component, which will be the seafront part, and 2 side components. On the spike's sides, we have other holes. The little cup has already been set up at the right height, which will be suitable for a typical surf casting rod with the handle at 70-80 centimeters, but we can easily move it to the highest hole or the lowest hole. These holes, however, can also be used to add and implement other components. Let's see how to transform a simple spike like this into a real fishing station. The bite indicator bar is one of the first components that I will show you, because it's almost mandatory. The bite indicator goes in the frontal part of the spike, in front of the sea, and it is applied to the central hole of the upper jolly. We screw it, stop at the corner, hook the wire upwards, and then lock it, screwing the counter nut. Once the rod has been placed on the spike, this accessory allows you to hook the line and report the fish's bite, both in raising, pulling and spiombata. In the front part, we can insert a chemical or electronic starlight, any 4.5 mm light source typically on the market, that makes you see it even at night. Another highly appreciated Evo3POD component is this bar, commonly called comb-like, the 30 cm trace bar that can be inserted laterally on our spike, right or left, depending on how you are used to fishing. You fix it in the same way we have already inserted the little bar. You screw it, stop, having the vertical comb upwards, and then you fix it by tightening the lock nut. We have already 2 components on the spike, a frontal bite indicator bar and a lateral trace bar. This is the classic return and exchange little trace arm. You quickly hook the trace, while this comb system is very fast. Having you trace an eyelet or a swivel, you simply hook it while the trace lies on the ground, ready to be changed in the next session. Another accessory that we can place on the left thread or the right if we put the bar on the left is the side tray, the classic side tray, very handy when you are fishing to lean on things you just used, like scissors. We insert it by loosening the steel bolt above and by pulling out the pin and screwing it into the jolly. We insert our tray and we block it. Why placing the tray on this pin? Because we can always level it whatever the angle of the spike is. We always have the option to level it. If we have a vertical spike, the tray will be flat, and if we have a diagonal spike, the tray will still be flat. This is just one of the versions we can set up with the basic spike. I am talking about this classic spike with the upper jolly already prepared for the 3 hooks. We have placed here a side trace bar, a small tray, a bite indicator bar. Nobody forbid us to take off a tray and put 2 trace bars instead. Somebody likes to fish with the return trace and the restart trace, or with 2 trays. Now we will see other components. Another Evo3POD modular component, much appreciated by those which use sandworms or worms and various baits, is this: the quick release deep tray, which differs from the low storage tray for 2 essential reasons. Firstly, its depth, suitable in windy condition, make it keep things in a better way. Secondly, the fast release allows us to use this tray in the same way as the classic bait box. Many athletes fill this tray with sandworms and a lot of water, and they use it to loosen it and then choose the worm to be baited. The quick release tray consists in 2 components, the fixing plate and the deep tray. We insert the fixing plate in the same way as the components we have seen. Evo3POD has a single stainless steel M6 thread, and all nuts and bolts are in M6 stainless steel, so we can put it wherever we want. Let's insert it into the only hole left. I freed it by disassembling the tray, so we level the plate flat and lock it with the lock nut. Once the plate has been locked in a leveled position, we insert the quick coupling tray this way. Also, thanks to the plate, we can always place the tray leveled, whatever the angle of our spike is. We just have to level the plate and hook the tray. I told you about the angled spike holes, the holes under the lower jolly, under the cap, and the upper ones. With this jolly, we set the height of this cap, whose right height is already at the center of the 3 holes. The upper and the lower holes can be used to apply this accessory, this little triangle, to our spike. It's an aluminium monoblock with stainless steel threads. This triangle allows us to set our spike with 2 other accessories, because once fixed on the angled spike, we will have laterally on the right and laterally on the left 2 other housings. We can decide whether to place the half-height accessory holder triangle to our spike to the upper or lower holes, because, as mentioned at the beginning, the Evo3POD spike mounts its original jollies, which tend to detach the rod from the angled bar, preventing it from touching the little triangle. Thanks to the half-height accessories holder small triangle, our spike has 2 other lateral housings, one on the right and one on the left. Thanks to the 2 housings, I will show you another Evo3POD component, very popular for those who fish beach ledgering. It is the low lateral barrel rod support arm. I will explain to you why it is called low lateral. We fix the arm in the same way. By now we know how. We screw the arm in, we stop at the desired position, and we tighten the lock nut. We stop when the fork is at the desired height, and we lock it by fixing the lock nut. Now it is blocked. This arm is great for fishing with a second rod. If we would have to fix it in the upper part, we can have a rod on the spike and the second rod here. Or since I screwed it in a lower position, it is great when I need to fish low, like in beach ledgering, and when I need the line to enter the water immediately, because it could be windy. So I lower the rod and put it here. Be careful, if I have the trace bar here and the rod rest arm here, there could be tangles. Anyways, we can decide to do as we like. We can unscrew the trace bar, put it laterally low on the opposite side of the rod or high on the opposite side of the jolly, and the problem is solved. All this to make you understand the modularity of Evo3POD. I can decide to put 2 high little arms two low trace bars because I want my traces low and I don't want to be seen by a competitor, or I can have two trays for the bait and a high lateral rod support arm. I'm showing you all the components. You can decide to set them as you want, based on your fishing setup. If the lateral trace bar, the short 30 cm one, is too short, maybe because I am used to keep more traces while fishing, there is no problem. I will replace my 30 cm arm with the 60 cm one. I stop it vertically and block it. In this case, the 60 cm arm is heavier, and it is always advisable to apply it to the half-height accessory holder triangle because the upper jolly has a 5 mm thread and such a long arm could be heavy. On the other hand, the accessory holder triangle thread is 10 mm. We can screw it deeply and so it is stronger. Now, in this way, I have a longer trace bar, laterally longer. I can always decide which side to use, but I have more room for my traces. We are still on the station, on the basic spike, the single one, and here I will show you a truly appreciated accessory. Very simple, but much appreciated by the athletes. It is the needles holder tube with a tip. Now I'll explain why with a tip. This little pipe is ideal because we all surf cast from the beach and bait annelids and use needles that often are lost on the beach. Now I am going to insert this accessory in the only free hole, the needles holder tube. Here I could have a high rod, a low rod, my traces, the bait, which I will be able to take with the quick release tray, and the bait needles. We have seen various configurations and application systems of the various Evo3POD components, and since each one of us fishes differently, at the moment we find the tray high, the needle holder high, the rod support arm low. As previously said, I can also use the low rod rest arm as a high lateral arm to house a second rod. So I use one spike but two fishing rods. If I want to use two fishing rods, I have to put it in the upper part here, next to the jolly, to have one rod and two rods. If I need to bait, maybe I will feel more comfortable at an intermediate height, and so I can lower the tray and put it over the accessory holder triangle. We have the tray low, the arm low, and maybe here in the upper part a tray. I have configured another version of Evo3POD, we could say almost full optional, with a storage plate high, a lateral rod rest for a low rod or a second rod, the quick release tray, ideal for baits, but also excellent for small bags when it's windy. We have extended the arm and now I can have more traces. The bite indicator bar, there's the needles holder tube left, the one we saw before. There's no more place, but I can still place it. The fixing bolts of the triangle lower cup have M6 threads too, so I can remove one of the two bolts, the upper or the lower one, and replace the fixing bolt with the knob that holds the needles holder tube, working as a bolt and needles holder. This way, I can apply the needles holder tube to the spike, but I am going to hide it behind the angled spike, so that the needles do not interfere with the fishing rod that I have in the front part. I have all I need: a bite indicator bar, a small tray, a secondary rod rest, the bait tray, the long trace bar, and the needles holder hidden behind the angled spike, the famous tube with the tip. Why the tip? Because so many of us are used to bait on our knees, and therefore, in order not to change our habits without losing the needles, we can safely take our tray, place it on the ground, place the needles holder tube on the ground, and don't lose our tradition of baiting on our knees. We have seen some of the countless configurations we can set with our Evo3POD 150 cm spike. But that's not all. So far, we have worked with the basic one, these in my hands, single rod, single pole. However, there are still other components that can be added to Evo3POD. And the more components we put, the more the spike starts to weigh. And therefore, we necessarily need to stabilize it. The 4 holes we see here come into play, these slight larger holes just below the rod rest. These holes are not accessory components. They are used to apply the legs to the spike and transform it from a simple spike into the one that Evo3POD invented, the famous hybrid spike, the single rod spike with stabilizing legs. The stabilizing legs are made of aluminum with lower points, single block aluminum blocks and stainless steel screws. We applied the legs to our spike, starting from the single spike, and we obtained the single rod with legs, the hybrid invented by Evo3POD. The effectiveness of the single rod and stability of the tripod is a cross between the classic spike and the tripod. We applied the legs with a size 4 Allen screw thanks to the stainless steel screws already supplied. The stabilizers kit for open-closed legs are among the first components that we are going to insert on the spike with legs. There are 2 versions of them. The classic small one with the 15 cm arms that works above the last hole here at this height, and the long one with 40 cm aluminum arms that works at this height under the jolly, under the rod rest cap, which will also be used for a triple use, to stabilize the tripod with the legs open or keep it with the legs closed, and also as a bait tray. We will see it in a while. The function of the open and closed legs block stabilizer kit is this. First of all, it stabilizes the tripod, prevents the legs from closing when we lift or move it, and we can also decide to change the angle of our spike by loosening the front blocks and sliding them here at the bottom. The legs close and the spike changes its angle. In addition, this leg lock kit has the particularity of having 2 locks, so that when we close our tripod, legs lock and doesn't move anymore. We are also often used weighing down our tripod. Obviously, with the stabilizer, you don't need this so much. But if we need to stabilize it more, to weigh down our tripod, with the classic bucket, there is no hook in the center of the 3 legs, in the center of the legged spike. We will find the hook in the center of the leg blocker body. Why? Because with the hook here, we can stabilize the tripod in the rear part. Therefore, we weigh it on the center foot, which is the angled one and not in the center, since when it comes to tripods and legged spikes, the center of gravity is shifted to the rear. In this way, the spike will be even more stable. The other locks legs open-closed stabilizer is the long one with the 40 cm aluminum arms. This stabilizer works under the lowest cap and possibly in a horizontal position. With the arms in a horizontal position, because in this way it also allows us to apply on the arms the internal bait tray, the triangular fabric one that we will see in a while. This stabilizer kit can lock legs both open and closed too. It blocks them when the tripod is closed or gives us the chance to change the angle. We can pull up the arms and then close them by decreasing the angle, or we can lower the arms by increasing the angle towards the sea. The internal triangular fabric bait tray. This accessory allows us to have many things in the center of the tripod and can be applied on any tripod, thanks to the 3 stretch bands at the 3 corners. But on the Evo3POD it is possible to apply it in a unique particular way, which we will now see. The bottom of this bait tray is micro-meshed. It allows sand or humidity or water to pass, but not the fishing accessories that we are going to place in it. This bait tray has an exclusive Evo3POD assembly system. On the two long sides, some stretches are simply put on by embracing the arms of the leg lock. Right side, left side. This way it is already very firm because it is supported by the side aluminum arms. But to be sure, we also embrace the legs and the angled spike with the 3 stretch bands. Thanks to these 3 corner clamps, this bait tray can also be applied to any other tripod on the market. Having applied to the angled spike the stabilizing legs, we now have the opportunity to use them to support other components. One of the most popular ones is the trace bar, the long one, the 95 cm one, which is applied right on the front legs thanks to the ETB16. These exclusive Evo3POD accessories that we will now use to apply the bar. We will also see how to use them in an alternative way. Once our components have been inserted, we bring them back to the desired height and block them. Thanks to the ETB16 front clips, we can apply the trace bar frontally to our Evo3POD and legs. This way, we no longer have a 30 or 60 cm side arm. We have a 95 cm bar instead, placed frontally. We can also decide whether to place it in a high, medium or low position by raising or lowering the two ETB16. The leg block kit with long arms, the triangular fabric bait tray and the front trace bar. We have previously seen how to apply all the components on the angled spike, and we have, however, also applied them to this spike with legs. This demonstrates the fact that we can use all the holes of the central angled spike and the front legs to configure our Evo3POD as we like. In fact, with this setup we have applied accessories on the legs and on the central angled spike, such as the bait tray, the deep tray, all the components that we applied previously just on the spike. Now we will see an alternative setting for the front bar. Why? Because if we would like to have a high or low sidearm or a protruding out rod, having a front trace bar could mean problems, so we can solve it this way. We have said we can position the trace bar in a high, middle or low position. It is placed high when it is not windy and we want to well prepare our traces, or maybe it is placed low when it's windy and we put our traces on the ground so that they take little wind, but many athletes prefer the lower position to cover traces from the neighbor's view. With the lateral rod rest arm, as already mentioned, we could interfere with the front bar. So, a suggestion is this. A different setup of the bar is to pull up the two ETB16, raise them and rotate downwards the clip, matching the lateral rod rest arm. This way, we will apply our bar using the same mind used in the little hands of the Bolognese rod rests, one facing downwards, the other facing upwards. I insert the smooth part of the bar from below and hook it to the top. So the bar is steady, it does not release, and I have moved it all to one side to have distinct traces and fishing areas, because in fishing everyone has the launch lane and the recovery lane. In this way, we have a typical surf casting station where on the right side we have the launch lane, where we can rest the rod, and on the left side the recovery lane, where we can change our traces. ETB16 are not only useful in supporting the front bar, we can also use them disassembled. Indeed, this accessory has two components, the body and the clip. We already used the clip to attach the needles holder tube, but the body without the clip is a very useful accessory if we need to apply other Evo3POD components on the front legs. In this way, we can use the front legs to apply other components, not only the front trace bar. An example is the rest rod side arm. On the legged spike, it works much better if applied outermost on the leg than on the angular spike. This way. As you could have understood, there are no limits to imagination. Each one of us can configure his fishing station based on the way he fishes. Front bar, side arm, long trace bar, bait tray, needles holder tray, one rod, two rods, we can do as we please. But is it all? Absolutely not. Another small accessory, a new entry, an implementation much loved by those who practice the Japan style. The Japan style is the fishing that is practiced with the tenbin, with this type of stainless steel trace, which generally has a swivel in the upper part, but it is difficult to hook onto a trace bar because it's not in nylon. These hooks, the tenbin mini traces holder hooks, can be applied on the side arm rod support or externally to the trace bar. Now we will see how to insert them. They are placed perpendicularly, then we hook our tenbin or mini traces. The same thing can be done in the upper arm, the side arm rod rest, by unscrewing the little bracket and inserting the hooks. In this way, we have a secondary or side arm rod support that holds two little hooks to which we can attach a tenbin or a mini trace. These little hooks are compatible with the 16 diameter, which is the same measure of the trace bar or the lateral trace bar arm of 30 or 60 centimeters. Another accessory widely used in competition is the UV lamp, the torch used to give more charge to the small phosphorescent accessories that we use on the traces near the hooks, such as floats or attractors. This is the Evo3POD UV lamp. It is inserted in the front leg in correspondence with the trace bar. In this case, I am inserting it on the right leg, because I have my traces above. I first insert the lamp holder, then the sponge disc, and hook my UV lamp in the special clip. I can still unlock the lamp at any time and use it as I want. This way my lamp charges the traces while they are at rest. Here I have the trace, the arm with the float on the round UV sponge, and above I turn on the lamp, and while I am fishing, the lamp does its job. It is there to charge the float or the attractor that I will launch immediately afterwards. This is a very successful accessory even in the last surf casting world championships. It is used by many athletes because it allows having everything one needs at fingertips, especially when the athletes have to move constantly, maybe because the tide is many meters long and having everything at hand is essential. It's called Big Basket. It fits on the central angular. We inserted it on the angled spike, sliding it at the desired height and blocking it with the knob. This large basket, this big basket, is very powerful because it unloads the weight directly on the angled spike, is very large too, and allows to have at fingertips everything an athlete needs with no need to move around holding many things. This accessory used successfully at the World Championships, where there is a need to move, allows to have everything at hand, and the athlete, with just the fishing rod and the Evo3POD station, can take everything with a simple hand and move in relation to the leftover or back tide on the fishing spot. We have seen many setups using both the single spike and the hybrid one, the legged one. And we can set many others, adapting to the ways we are used to fishing. However, the setups we have seen so far are all single rod structures setups. Single rod means conceived for one single rod or possibly a second rod using the side arm. But Evo3POD is not just for a single rod. Thanks to the conversion brackets, these accessories here, we can transform our single rod legged spike into a real double rod tripod. In 2 minutes, we transformed what was a single rod spike into a full-fledged tripod. The upper bracket mounts 2 jollies, so also in this case we can indulge ourselves as we want. Place 2 bite indicator bars because we have 2 rods, an external right accessory, an external left accessory. In short, Evo3POD is free configuration. The double rod conversion brackets have 2 fixing systems. We have just seen the fast one, the 2 minutes one, where we insert the bracket on the angle and lock it with the knob. However, there is an alternative way for fixing the double rod brackets. The double rod bracket has 2 frontal threaded holes that we can use, taking advantage of the same stainless steel bolts that previously blocked the jolly, the one we have just disassembled. To fix it by threading, we take out the bracket and place it from the inside. The threaded holes will match the holes of the jolly. Then we will place the bracket and we'll screw with the bolts. With this setup, we have 2 rods on our Evo3POD, and it is almost impossible to have more components here on the angled spike, because all the operational space is occupied by the 2 rods. However, we still have to show an accessory that is compatible with the 2 rods. It can be put on the central angled spike of Evo3POD. And then I will show you a final gem using the body and the TB16 on the front leg. The angular spike tray is an accessory that can also be used combined with the double rod bracket. Its width is almost perfect. The 2 rods will pass sideways, one right and one left. We insert the tray, shift it at the desired height, insert the lower double rod bracket, the one with the cups, and we place the 2 rods, one on the right and one on the left. The tray is perfectly central to our rods. Here we can have all the components, and on the right and left we have our fishing rods. This is one of the 2 TB16s, the same coupling devices we used in pairs to support the front bar. and we saw it used without the clip for the rest rod sidearm. Now I want to show how to use it with both threads. On one side we have the clip that we unscrewed, and on the other there is the knob that prevents it from sliding on the leg. We take the deep tray plate, we have already seen how to fix it, and we screw it in place of the knob. So, this plate will have a double function. The first is to support the tray, the second is that of a knob, because if we tighten it, we also block the TB16. We insert the plate, block it leveled, put the clip on the other side, fix the needles holder and fix the tray here. Since we are fishing with two rods, we cannot put too many components on the central angled spike, the tray, the needles holder. So here, with just a single element, the ETB16, we were able to place two components that are complementary to, because here we will have the bait, our sandworms, Korean, whatever we want, and here we have the baiting needles. Immediately above we find the trace bar. This way, in very little space we have our traces, arms, hooks, baits and needles. We can bait and have everything ready using the front legs too. Evo3POD, among other things, is the lightest fishing station in the world. This has been practically filled with the components, but not only that. Above, there are two rods and two reels. It is possible to take everything with one hand, transport it, go where we want. It is truly the lightest station in the world. It is no coincidence that it is the station used and chosen by many athletes. We saw it in the last surf casting World Championship, as we have seen the effectiveness of the big basket. Once we arrived at the fishing spot, we can set up our Evo3POD station in 2 minutes. Some components are inserted the first time and never removed again, such as the leg lock and the ETB16. Once we get to fishing, we only have to open the legs, lock them and choose which components to insert. We are ready to fish. We can devote more attention to the fishing action, having greater chances to get results, to reach the podium, because a station with everything at your fingertips allows you to get less tired on the beach, to walk much less between the tray and the traces spikes, to have everything close at hand and therefore focus your attention on a single goal: rods at fishing.